teachers of Reddit. What differences do you see in students who have young parents vs students who have older parents? I would say that there is more correlation between which child is in my class. Oldest, only, middle, youngest. I teach kindergarten. Parents that are going through their first kid entering my class, kindergarten, have no idea what to expect and are pretty neurotic about very trivial and age appropriate things. Parents who have a second child going through the school system are always, "This isn't what it was like with my firstborn." And then there are the youngest ones. Parents are like, "Yeah, I figured. No, I'll just send money for you to take care of anything your class needs. Do I need to worry about? Good. I won't." Parents of only children are the wild cards. I teach 9/10 year olds and I've noticed how which sibling they are affects their maturity level. Oldest means they've been raised around younger kids and their things. Youngest means they've been raised around older kids and their things. Oldest siblings tend to still be kids. Youngest siblings can tend to be young teens. This is especially true of girls, and if they are the youngest in their family by quite a bit. If a 10-year-old girl has late teen sisters then they have been exposed to a lot of the teen drama already, and that affects how they act. None. Parent involvement is a big factor. If I am a parent, will they answer? Will they uphold consequences at home for behavior at school? Will they work with me to find solutions that work for their child? Those are where I see the differences. And in my experience, older parents are just as likely as younger parents to do those things. Honest question. What about foster kids, and maybe others who just won't have that parental involvement? The single parent on long shifts like nurses on 12-hour afternoon shifts. I know as a teacher you can't solve every societal problem. It's not on you. Parents who are illiterate or can't help with homework in English. But when I look back, I really wish there had been a way to flag a kid like me as not having had that support and had some way to intervene and provide extra support. I went from being almost a straight A kid to being an actual street kid, and it was just business as usual. Maybe even an algorithm that could monitor dramatic changes in student performance. The foster kids who were my friends almost all had caring foster parents, but got moved around so much, or got regularly moved in and out of terrible home situations. There was no real chance they'd get any education support at home. I had one teacher who plainly saw things were not right. Spent extra time with me after school. But I honestly also had teachers who were punitive of me for being poor. But overall, there was no real response. It was business as usual. There isn't a difference. I have seen great parents who are young and terrible older parents. As noted before, parent involvement and engagement makes all the difference. If parents read with their children, encourage them and actually have conversations with them, you notice a wider vocabulary, great literacy skills and more confidence. The difference after summer holidays is massive. Children who aren't read with regress massively and make spend a term getting them back to where they were before summer. I find the children whose parents don't listen to them are the ones who call out all the time and do anything for attention. Obviously there is exceptions such as medical conditions. That being said, some parents are involved, but in an unhealthy way. They question why their child isn't in the highest group, why they have moved up a level, and constantly talk about how their child is one of the best in the class. Sometimes unfortunately the child isn't quite living up to high expectations, and the anxiety this causes the children is crazy. I've seen children cry getting spelling wrong because their parent will flip out. I've also seen a parent make their child learn 2 groups worth of spelling because he would fall behind the higher group. It doesn't matter if the parents are young or old, have 1 child or 8, healthy engagement is key. I love parents who genuinely care, want to help their children, and listen to their children's interests. Well, if I'm being honest, there's not a lot of differences. Each person is different, so I can't just categorize them. I have one student who was moved to an advanced class by his older mother. Worst decision ever made by that mom, but she wanted to brag that her kid was taking advanced classes. Unfortunately, she doesn't really care that her son is struggling. It's really all about parent involvement. I've had a lot of moms talk to me about their kids' grades and how they are doing. But I've also had a lot of moms like the one I mentioned above. I've seen the good and bad in both. But sometimes, the young parents aren't financially stable enough to raise kids. Also, they sometimes both work or have two jobs, so they aren't spending enough time with their kids, especially academically. I found that some of the older parents put a lot of thought into having the child. It wasn't on a whim. Therefore, they tend to have the money, time, and also the desire to raise the child right, especially giving more time academically. But, on the minus side, I've seen older parents just not have the energy or patience to be around young children. I know a set of parents who are 52, and 65, with 3 very rambunctious boys, between the ages of like 10 and 13. They are really stressed, all the time. At their age, their kids should be long out of the house. But nope, they have many years left. I teach a musical instrument to 30 plus kids. One younger mom bought a $250 chinchilla, but couldn't afford a new music book for her daughter. It was literally $7. And she ended up selling the chinchilla within a month, because it turned out to be too much work. Another young parent didn't have an instrument for her child to practice on for months, even though she had her own small business, good source of income, and I kept telling her she had to get one. I eventually had to drop both students. We just could not progress properly. Typically the older parents just have their shit together better, especially when it comes to money. In both these cases it wasn't even about not having enough money, really. It was how the parents chose to spend the money they had. Badly. The best parents to work with are always grandparents. I find the younger parents are more likely to find answers to school issues and policies, because they are more likely to read the website, Facebook etc. before calling the school. Older generation parents tend to call the school more often for help. As the head of technology, the older parents also want absolutely nothing to do with the online systems set up to support their children, even if it means their child is the only one without a laptop in class. Teach them everything. Let them try. Love them. Don't yell at them, don't hit them. Remember, they trust you more than anyone else, they love you more than anyone else. The first 2 will completely ruin the other 2. Usually when you have to yell at them, it's because you are messing up somewhere. Usually because you're selfish and can't see that you're being selfish. And if these words hurt your feelings, because you probably know it's true. Not a teacher, but was a student, 1993 till 2005. Because I was born to a baby boomer, only some of the older teachers knew my parents were that. The younger teacher, that they were my grandparents. They sometimes thought my nephew was my younger brother, not knowing I became an aunt shortly before my 4th birthday. I had to bring my eldest sister, who was his mother, as proof. While they try to make some peace with my mom and my oldest brother, they knew they were the ones who are going to get whenever my dad or oldest sister shows up in my defense. The teachers were puzzled since my dad, who an ex-con and a former boxer, often told me to beat up bullies every now and then. Yet, if they ever look at my records now, they would be surprised I hardly had issues with the police and mostly had fines. I find it's more about what grade the child is in. In kindergarten you'll see parents more often, and they are much more involved. They want to know about their child as a learner, because they haven't had an outside opinion yet. They will attend information nights and seek feedback on their child's progress regularly. They can be over the top with all this, which is time consuming and simply annoying. In the upper grades parents are far less involved. They know what their child is like as a learner as they've had several years to build a picture from past teachers. I find hardly any attend information nights and they rarely seek feedback on their child's work. I think in their view students are more set in their ways by this point and the parents' efforts are futile. Not a teacher, but a tutor. When I was in high school I used to teach English to Mexican kids and teens that wanted to learn. Something I notice is that older parents are the ones that make the kid/teen study this language since they think it's gonna help them in life, which is true, but the point is that the kid/teen is often there because of their older parents. I also notice that younger parents tend to spoil them and sometimes don't give a damn about their kids and just take them with me as a babysitter. Not all of them are like this, but it's what I've seen, and it's pretty common. I'm the child of older parents. My mum and dad have a 10-year age gap. I guess that older parents just like to pamper their child more. I have friends whose parents gave birth to them when they were like 19 or 20. As for them, I noticed that they're much more sociable and interactive around large groups of people. Plus they kinda have a high resistance towards alcohol. Of course, this doesn't apply to everyone. Just based off on what I noticed. I work in toddler care. Older parents are either helicopter moms or are more experienced and relaxed. Younger parents tend to lie the most when it comes to their kids. I have one mom in particular in her early 20s who keeps lying about her boy's development, saying he could walk when he was crawling. It took him 3 months after her statement before he could actually stand on his own, saying he uses the spoon at home. He is the only child in my class who still eats with his hands and says she changed him before coming to school. He always has the fullest diaper daily, and it's obvious she hasn't changed him since the night before. Sadly, this is just normal for young parents in my experience.